As news of the murders spread across Bavaria, police officers, detectives, and forensic experts rushed to the isolated farm. Even before the investigation truly began, they realized this was no ordinary crime scene. Nothing about the murders made sense. 6 people had been killed without a single confirmed witness, no valuables appeared to have been stolen, and the killer had seemingly disappeared without leaving behind a clear trail. The investigators carefully examined the barn where 4 members of the Gruber family had been found. Their injuries showed that the murderer had used tremendous force, most likely with a mattock, a farming tool commonly found in rural areas. The pattern of the attacks suggested that the victims had been killed one after another rather than all at once. Police believed the killer had managed to lure each victim into the barn individually, preventing the others from realizing what was happening until it was too late. The farmhouse raised even more disturbing questions. Little Joseph had been killed while sleeping in his crib, while Maria Baumgartner was found dead in her bedroom. There were signs that the killer had moved calmly through the house after the murders. Nothing suggested a frantic escape. Instead, investigators found evidence indicating that someone had remained on the property for several days after the crime. Neighbors later confirmed that smoke continued rising from the chimney during those days. The cattle had been fed, milked, and cared for. The horses had fresh hay, and the family dog had survived. Food appeared to have been eaten inside the house. If these observations were accurate, it meant the killer had stayed at the farm, living among the victims before finally leaving without being seen. The investigation quickly expanded across the region. Detectives questioned neighbors, relatives, traveling workers, merchants, and anyone who had recently visited the farm. Hundreds of interviews were conducted, yet every promising lead eventually reached a dead end. No one admitted seeing a stranger leaving the property, and no witness could explain the mysterious events that had taken place before the murders. One of the earliest theories was robbery. However, investigators soon dismissed that idea because cash and valuable possessions were still inside the farmhouse. If money had been the motive, the killer had ignored it completely. That suggested the murders were personal, or at least carefully planned for a reason other than theft. Police also considered the strange events that had occurred before the murders. The unexplained footprints leading to the farm, the sounds in the attic, the missing house key, and the mysterious newspaper all suggested someone might have been watching the family long before the attack. Although investigators could never prove those incidents were connected, they remained among the most unsettling clues in the entire case. As the investigation continued, several suspects emerged. One theory focused on people who had personal conflicts with the Gruber family. Andreas Gruber was known as a difficult and sometimes unpopular man, leading detectives to wonder whether someone held a deep grudge against him. However, despite questioning multiple individuals, police never found enough evidence to charge anyone. Another theory involved Victoria Gabriel's personal relationships. Rumors about the identity of young Joseph's father circulated throughout the community, leading investigators to consider whether jealousy or family disputes might have provided a motive. Despite years of speculation, no evidence ever confirmed those rumors as the reason behind the murders. Some investigators believed the killer may have been someone familiar with farming. Whoever remained at Hinterkaifeck after the murders appeared to know exactly how to care for livestock and maintain the property. This suggested the murderer understood farm life and may even have known the family personally. Others proposed an even darker possibility, that someone had secretly been hiding on the property before the murders took place. The mysterious footprints, attic noises, missing key, and unexplained newspaper fueled speculation that an unknown individual may have been living unnoticed somewhere around the farm. However, despite repeated searches, investigators never found proof that anyone had secretly occupied the property. Over the following decades, the Hinterkaifeck murders became one of Europe's most famous unsolved cases. Detectives reopened the investigation several times as new forensic techniques became available. Historians carefully studied police files, witness statements, photographs, and crime scene sketches, hoping modern analysis would reveal something earlier investigators had missed. Several experts later identified possible suspects based on historical evidence, but none could be linked to the crime with enough certainty to solve the case. Because so much time had passed, physical evidence had either been lost, destroyed, or degraded beyond modern testing. Any opportunity to obtain definitive forensic proof had disappeared long ago. Today, historians generally agree on one thing: many questions may never be answered. Who left the mysterious footprints in the snow? Who was walking through the attic at night? Where did the missing key go? Who left the unexplained newspaper near the farm? Most importantly, did the killer truly remain at Hinterkaifeck for several days after murdering the entire family, or were those observations simply misunderstood by frightened witnesses? More than 100 years have passed since the murders, yet no suspect has ever been officially identified beyond reasonable doubt. The victims have long been buried, the original farmhouse no longer stands, and many of the people connected to the investigation are gone. But the mystery has survived every generation. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of history's most chilling unsolved crimes, not only because 6 innocent people lost their lives, but because the truth seemed to vanish along with the killer. Every clue led to another mystery, every suspect raised more questions than answers, and every investigation ended exactly where it began. Perhaps somewhere in an old archive, a forgotten document still holds the final piece of the puzzle. Or perhaps the person responsible carried the truth to the grave, leaving behind only silence, unanswered questions, and a lonely farm that became one of the world's most haunting crime scenes. More than a century later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain officially unsolved.